Joining us now to explain how the delay in election results may be impacting Americans' health is mental health psychiatrist Dr. Carole LIeberman. So, doctor, it's a real pleasure to have you on this program tonight. We've talked about what uncertainty does to the American people, whether it's lockdown orders, whether it's this looming election, and now we're in a state where many Americans are waiting for the results themselves. So I want to get your response to what's going on right now. Could this impact the average American?
Yes, we are having one stress upon another stress upon another stress. People, first of all, convinced themselves before election night that their guy was going to win. And so anything other than that to begin with was going to be difficult. And now that it's dragging on, we've sort of fortified ourselves to hang in there until election night. And then now, just like with COVID, when we fortified ourselves, hung in there for the first wave, and then we found out there's a second wave and a third wave and more lockdowns and all that. So that's very stressful physically and psychologically. However, as you were just talking about, that would be nothing. The stress of this would be nothing compared to what would happen if we don't investigate every single ballot with all these questions of shenanigans. The uncertainty in terms of whether our democracy is working, whether we can trust our ballots, our election system and all of that, that would be a lot greater stress on our minds.
That's a fascinating point because so often, for example, our government officials, our elected leaders make decisions, and I wonder if they actually take the people into account. You brought up the lockdown orders, for example, and I can't stress how great the American people were early on. They were told to stay home, close down their businesses, said it would be 15 days, and they did so. An unprecedented move that we've never seen in this country before, at least not in the past 100 years, but then they kept extending that period. And that's when people said, you know what? I can't do this forever. I need some certainty. I need to know what is exactly going on. Do you think that perhaps our elected leaders don't take the American people and those who actually may suffer into account enough?
That has been the problem from the beginning with COVID. This whole issue of how it should have been treated and so on, and Dr. Fauci's gloom and doom and so on. What really needed to be stressed was the psychological aspects, the fact that lockdowns themselves really have a psychological impact on us. And COVID is what's really a big part of what the problem is now, because that is what made a lot of state officials decide that we should do it by mail, that, we should try to keep people out of the voting the poll places and so on. And it's the fact that there were so many mail-in ballots that we are in the current mess that we're in. Really, it was safe to go to the polling places.
And, that's a very interesting point, too, because, of course, right now we're focusing on the 2020 presidential election, really trying to make sure that the results that we're seeing are accurate, that they're fair, things of that nature. But I think there is something in the bigger picture, too, that if we don't, for example, take a look at the ballots, make sure that we can vet this system somehow, there's a longer type of degradation that could come to our democracy more broadly. If people don't have faith in the system themselves, why participate in democracy if you don't think it's actually working for you? Do you fear that could be taking place?
Absolutely. This is such a huge problem. We grow up as kids believing in America, in the flag, in the national anthem, in voting, in elections, and everything being honest. And for this mainstay of our psychological well-being, as well as, political and so on, if that is shredded, we're going to be at a real loss. As a psychiatrist, when we examine a patient, one of the first things we do is talk about do you know where you are? Do you know what day it is? Do you know all these basic questions? We will lose that sense if we can't count on these ballots and an honest election. And that is going to have a much longer term and a much worse impact on our psyche.
And I know that you and I have talked about this before, but there's an idea right now that there's even a sense of information warfare taking place. People go to their desired networks, for example, to hear what they want to hear, not necessarily getting the truth behind what's going on. And right now seems like a moment like that. We can't necessarily just come to a logical conclusion that it seems you should be able to see if your vote was counted. You should be able to see that the election results were fair, things of that nature. And I mean, it's an unfortunate time where it's a politicized issue because democracy itself is not inherently political. It is a political system, but it's not partisan is what I'm trying to say. So I guess for the time being, as many Americans do wait in this period of uncertainty, what advice do you have for them?
Well, first of all, everybody should be concerned about this, whether they voted for Biden or Trump. This is an issue that affects everyone. And so we all have to hanker down, be patient, make sure that every single vote, I'm sure you know that there was a man just recently who was caught going over the border in Canada with a bunch of mail with ballots in it. I mean, these kinds of things are popping up all the time. We know already about a lot of shenanigans. And so what people need to do is hunker down and do some of the basics. First of all, stop their addiction to 24/7 television. Sorry to say. But we can tune in, we can check in. We don't have to sit there all day and be paralyzed. Also, we can't make this Groundhog Day where we keep going over and over with our friends and our family and our coworkers and so on, our politics, like they should have voted for, because that just ruins friendships and relationships even more. Then people gathered a lot of alcohol and food for election night, and they are continuing to drink and eat it, and that is not a good idea. And then last but not least, the basics that there were for coronavirus are the same basics for election stress. It is to have nutritious food, get enough sleep, get to bed earlier, have vitamins, have immune system supplements, get outside, get sun, get exercise, all of those things that, everybody kind of knows, but people don't discipline themselves to actually do it. And now we have to, because it's going to be for the long run.
No, I think that's great advice to take with you in any time, let alone the time that we're in right now. It's especially important at this very moment. And when it comes to the news one, everyone can watch this show, then go do their other stuff. But this show comes first. Dr. LIeberman, it's always a pleasure having you on this program, especially during this very important time on this really important topic, because not enough people are talking about it, in my opinion. Thank you very much for coming on.
Thank you.